Okay. Yep. It's the second time we're recording this too. What was I gonna say? Yeah, I'm here just to show some thoughts on the One Piece community, mainly the One Piece scaling community. One of the most atrocious I've seen for anime scaling, to be honest. Mainly because you don't know shit. I mean, One Piece has been going on for so long, you've left like for 3 years now, we've known about, okay, maybe not 3 years, like one and a half or two, I don't remember now, that we've known about Rocks, Dieselbeck, and you got everyone with their fucking minds blown. They want to know, ooh, was Rocks stronger than Roger? How strong is Rocks? How strong is Joy Boy? How strong is Emu? Can Emu beat Joy Boy? Did Joy Boy beat Emu? Joy Boy versus Roger? Roger versus Shanks? Shanks versus Whitebeard? Whitebeard versus Roger? Prime Garp? Where does Prime Garp scale? It's just been some crazy shit. And then you've got some of the hundreds of debates for One Piece, obviously, and I just feel like most of them pretty simple to answer if you have common fucking sense and you've seen a good bit of the series or know about some of the statements. So yeah, I guess I'm gonna start just talking about most of these kind of debates that I see. I'll start off with Shanks versus Mihawk, which is a pretty obvious one. Sorry to all the Shanks fans, but it's pretty obviously Mihawk. Mihawk has been stated the world's strongest swordsman multiple times. Most recently, he was said to be the greatest and the best sword skills. I don't give a shit about that. He had 10 other statements saying directly the strongest, and greatest and strongest are pretty interchangeable. Shanks is a confirmed swordsman, but you don't even need that statement from the SBS or whatever it was. Vivre Guard, I think. Like, obviously, he's a swordsman. What else do you want him to be? Um, yeah, he and Shanks duel in the past. He's implied to have been superior in those duels. You can argue Shanks got stronger, or just great. Mihawk's still stronger because of statements. Um, yeah, it's just that simple, to be honest. A lot of people underestimate Mihawk. I think he's gonna have some really great. I mean, he does have. He's obviously gonna have really great hockey feats if he's gonna be above hockey users like Vista and especially Shanks. I think the notion that he doesn't have Conqueror's hockey is pretty stupid. He's at the top of his league. He's in a dominant position, which is the one characteristic of Conqueror's hockey users. They have arisen to the top of their own positions. You got pirate captains, pirate king, emperors. You know what I mean? These are the types of people. Sengoku, the fleet admiral. Those are the type of guys you got with Conqueror hockey. So of course, it makes no sense that a guy who's also supposed to be the final opponent for Zoro, who's just starting to use his Conquerors, is still gonna somehow not have Conquerors when he's also at the top of his own little place there, in terms of swordsman. You also got Odin with Conquerors. Odin's another topic, dude. He's a fun little guy. One of my favorite characters from the show, to be honest. Yeah, Mihawk versus Shanks is pretty simple. I would say it's definitely extreme difficulty, I guess you can say, but another thing about Mihawk is I think there's definitely a lot to go with his observation. I don't know much about armament. If I recall correctly, the black blades they don't have like a permanent armament coating on them, which would make sense because, he's slashed buggy before and whatnot. Um, what was I gonna say? I think Zoro is also slashes black blade on other Logia users. But it could have been forged with like a lot of armament, which is why it could be an impressive feat. I don't know. Then again, I don't remember who's forged the Black Blade. I don't know if it was Odin or someone else. I think Mihawk made his own. When it comes to observation, the only thing that implies he has really good observation is his title epithet of clairvoyant or Hawkeyes, which, I mean, obviously he does have Hawkeyes, you know what I mean? It's pretty obvious. But, yeah, so you should definitely be packing some really good observation hockey, probably observation hockey that can somehow negate or at least compete with Shanks' own observation hockey and observation killing, or whatever he does, nullification of observation, color of observation. He's probably gonna have something to counteract that or um, bypass it because that would be one reason that you'd be able to keep up so well with Shanks. Another debate I feel is pretty stupid is the debate amongst the emperors and the admirals. I think admirals are slightly below the emperors, to be honest. If we're looking at it, Kaido's the strongest emperor. There's no way Shanks is stronger. One reason also people think about Shanks being stronger than Mihawk is because he's supposed to be Luffy's final opponent, which he's not. Even if he was, no, if he was, then you can make the case, but it's not. He is not. He's gonna either be a secondary last opponent towards other bigger bads like Blackbeard and Emu. Blackbeard, no doubt, gonna be stronger than Shanks at the end of the series. I mean, it's pretty clearly implied. He's already grown so much, and we haven't exactly seen everything from him yet. And it looks like he's still got some growing to do. But yeah, what was I gonna say? So yeah, Shanks is not gonna. He's also might just end up being an ally for Luffy within this final war, which means he wouldn't necessarily have to be stronger than Mihawk, who Zoro would bypass at the end of the series. But yeah, when it comes to admirals, I think that like I mean, obviously they're not like fucking old sick Whitebeard level anymore. I think that to be fair, Akiyunu kind of like yeah he was being damaged pretty bad by Whitebeard and he was getting off guard some hits. He got hit off guard both times. That's for sure though. But if you wanted to put them relative at least with the old sick Whitebeard, who would have been like far below most of the emperors we had now, Shanks, Blackbeard, Kaido. I think he either just got upscaled, probably just through plot. There's no way Akainu, for example, is as a fleet admiral gonna be far weaker than Luffy. And you can say and argue all you want about who he's gonna fight. It's gonna be Luffy. It's gonna be Sabo with the blue flame awakened. He's gonna avenge Ace and become even hotter than magma. Whatever you want, to be honest, but I just that's too low of a level. Sabo at that point is gonna be stronger than old sick Whitebeard. So even if you wanted to say that, I mean, he already kind of is growing to that level. He was like what contesting with two admirals at that point, second in command of Dragon. Dragon's bounty is another thing. I'm pretty sure a lot of people contest about. I don't know why. I would say it's probably somewhere between Roger and Whitebeard. He's the most wanted man in the world, but he got that title after Roger's death, which obviously would mean his bounty is kind of invalidated, despite the fact that they still had the posters. But Whitebeard was still alive, so he's probably like a 5.2 billion, 25 billion, something around that line. Roger's bounty's hyped up more, and he's done more shit than Dragon, really, when you really think about it, at least from what we've seen. So, Dragon being between the two is, I think, a good balance of that. 5.25 or something is a really good leeway. But yeah, if I had to scale like where current Akainu would go, probably low Emperor to high Emperor level. And then you would have Aokiji and Kizaru who would be slightly slower. I mean they're old, so you're like, oh, why do they get stronger if they're so old? And they're not that old to be fair. I mean at least like they're not Whitebeard level old, but they are like a generation below. They were vice admirals and already looking really fucking stern by the time that you had Roger's era going on. So I kind of want to see more of admirals included in Roger and whatnot flashbacks. We're gonna see more, but I mean, obviously they weren't the spotlight, but still. Where does Rob Lucci scale? That's a funny thing. In fact, I don't think he used much hockey, but I think he did get it. I think he did get hockey. And to be fair, hockey with six techniques or six powers, whatever the hell you call it, that would be a pretty good combo. Actually, does it? I don't even know. But Yeah, he still got low diff by Luffy. I don't think they're relative at all. You can argue if he was like, I don't know how Kaku did here, but you can argue he's like Zoro level or something. Zoro and Luffy have a large gap, so it's not like that's an impossible thing for him to be. Garp's one of my favorite characters too, not gonna lie. I can't fucking believe that. Everybody's been overhyping Garp due to the Galaxy Impact feat. Well, have to change that. That chapter not out yet. And I just saw some leaks for chapter. Oh, what the fuck? For chapter 1081. It was about Shanks and Blackbeard. What the fuck? Do I have to do it manually? Yeah, let me do like this. Atta boy. Yeah, it was like this whole paragraph long spoilers, and it went into. It was supposed to be like a flashback of Blackbeard and Shanks' fight and how they fought. It was like Shanks. They were pretty in detail. It was like Shanks and his guys versus specifically Marco, Teach, and I think it was like Jozu or another one of Vista, and it was only them. And then Shanks and Blackbeard fight, and then it turns into a gay sex fanfic. Pretty raunchy. But yeah, look at this, look at this, look at this. By the way, love Blackbeard's crew. I love Blackbeard as a character. Very underrated by some bummy little One Piece fans. Same people who think this feat right over here automatically puts Garp at like the top of the verse. Is this even Advanced Conquerors? I'm pretty sure Advanced Armin can do the same thing. I don't know. I forget, but Garp having Conquerors hockey is something I didn't. To be fair, I was in that shit too, where I was like, yeah, he doesn't. Mainly because, I mean, I don't remember exactly how the lineage factor works for Conquerors, because that would obviously be one major piece of evidence, considering, Luffy has it. And unless you somehow believe he's not Garp's biological grandson, which he is, if anything, he's not Dragon's biological son. But anyway, yeah, it's kind of fucking weird, isn't it? Ace was Roger's son, yeah, Garp's grandson, and Ace and Luffy are around the same age. Anyway, what was I gonna say? Yeah, Garp is just he didn't really fill the requirements. He didn't have ambition to really go very high. It depends on what you mean, though. He had ambition to just kill pirates and do whatever. Not really kill, but you get the point. Just arrest pirates and be free. So that can be interpreted as such. Obviously, he didn't want to rise to a high position. He wanted to do the opposite and stay low as a vice admiral. But and he's strong. He clearly had some kind of drive. It's not the most far fetched thing, of course. I was just under the pre-notion that he had buffed up his armament mainly to such an insane degree because armament and conquerors are pretty similar, from what I've gathered, in that they're both supposed to amp your attack power. So he just amped his armament somehow to an even greater degree than Roger and Whitebeard, so that it made up for the fact that they had extremely powerful and well-crafted weapons and conquerors to an insane degree, which is kind of unrealistic. Maybe that's just me, but if Garp's fist were to ever meet Roger's blade, and not only is Roger using a weapon that's naturally going to be better against the fist, a really good weapon, mind you, he even named his son after it, but he also has conquerors on top of his armament, which is definitely not low grade by any mean. You get the point? Whitebeard's also stronger than Roger, I said it. By like a very slight degree. I would say their hockey is probably what's equal, but everything else goes to Whitebeard. And he just doesn't sometimes use it in fights. Maybe, I don't know, he just never gets a chance to fully exploit it, but his Devil Fruit power is mainly what carries. I mean, obviously, we know how it helps in terms of his overall attack power. He's also just a much higher physical menace. Roger was definitely very strong too. We know that even normal sized humans in One Piece are very strong, but I don't think I'm gonna see an old, depraved, sick Roger pulling off the same feats as Whitebeard and Marineford if he was in Whitebeard's position. But yeah, that's some of the things, I guess. What else is there? Kaido versus Shanks. I already forgot what I mainly thought about Kaido versus Shanks, to be honest, but I'd say it's pretty obvious Kaido's stronger. It depends, because that goes also into the Kaido versus Luffy debate, because you're like, oh, why Luffy would have surpassed Shanks? He surpassed Kaido. I mean, I'm pretty sure Luffy probably is weaker than Kaido by a bit. Kaido was holding himself back many ways. You can argue that Luffy was basically pushed to death too, so he just didn't have enough stamina to be going full power, which puts them at a more equal setting. I don't know. I'm not even gonna go into that fight. That's too much. But I don't know. I just see more statements for Kaido being stronger, which, if anything, could just support that. If you really don't believe Shanks has been surpassed yet by Luffy, also depends on where you think Luffy's progression is going to go, because Straw Hats need progression. So the fact that we don't see it for Luffy, maybe we see a bit more for Luffy, but mainly for the others, which is going to be really hard to see. To be honest, he's going to be crapping a lot of shit. Nami, I feel like maybe gets some observation, but besides that, she has a really powerful weapon, and that's about all she needs. She has an ally in Zeus, and she has an extremely powerful weapon. I think we've really seen what we need to from Nami. Maybe she unlocks some haki like Usopp. And speaking of Usopp, we need some haki for him desperately. If he stays in a similar position where he's in the crew, he's just gonna be fodder. He's not really. It depends where you think Usopp's meaning to go, but if he's supposed to rival his own father or really be a help starting now to the crew, he's not gonna do shit. He's not fighting Yasop at all. He has no he used observation haki once for one glimmer. That's not helping him. He doesn't even have armament. So yeah, I'm expecting haki from a lot of the Straw Hats. Chopper can stay the way he is, I guess. Not every single Straw Hat needs haki. I don't see Frankie getting haki. I don't see Chopper getting haki. I don't think I see Brook getting haki, but maybe he does. Because he's more of a swordsman type fighter, so it makes more sense than like Chopper and Brook, who fight a little differently. Same thing with like Robin and Nami, of course. Yeah, Usopp needs haki desperately. That's no doubt. He needs some really good observation, maybe a unique kind like what Shanks has, and of course he needs powerful armament too. A lot of people theorize with Usopp's, hyped up opponents, he is definitely going to get that. I'm hyped for whatever development Usopp gets, to be honest. I don't want some crazy kind of boost hype for him, but I do want him to be something that, ends up actually being something that he can be proud of by the time he unfortunately dies to prove that he's a brave warrior of the sea. Or maybe he does go back home to Syrup Village, whichever one you prefer. Blackbeard versus Shanks. I was thinking what are some of the more powerful crews right now? Big Mom's crew is easily the weakest, to be honest. Big Mom's crew gets shat on by every single Emperor crew. Luffy has surpassed Big Mom. She's a good deal below Kaido, given their fight, I would say. Maybe considerably lower. Maybe it's like high diff. It depends where you really want to rank. If you want to rank Luffy far below Kaido, which I think is kind of a joke, then yeah, but if Luffy is at least able to high diff, if Luffy takes down Big Mom, the entire crew's done. And even if he needs a bit of help, I'm sure Zoro and Sanji are probably going to be able to pull off that kind of help. Maybe Bardo too, because he's got those barriers. And we're counting the Grand Fleet for the Straw Hats, by the way, because they're pretty much officially recognized at this point. What was I going to say though? Big Mom probably dies to Luffy. If Luffy needs a little bit of help, he will get that because second strongest on Big Mom's crew is Katakuri. And this man, by feats, unironically loses to Chopper. Chopper. Zoro and Sanji are going to destroy this man and pound him back into the flower that he's supposed to minister. And by the time they're done with him, the rest of the crew is done easily. and then they can move on to Big Mom, all of them. And Big Mom's only got like a 200 man crew, especially Luffy with the Grand Fleet's got over 5,000 and a half men. You know what I mean? Bardo's crazy. I can't wait to see how he and Shanks played out. I don't think he's dead at all, but Shanks probably gave him a whooping, maybe taught him some stuff. I really love that one meme where he like Shanks attacks his barrier and it just does nothing. I want to see a panel of that before he just gets outplayed or something. Bardo has conquered hockey for real though. Yeah, Big Mom's crew's getting soloed. Beast Pirates is probably the one that ends up taking down the Straw Hats. Especially if you think okay, fine. If you think that Luffy beats Kaido, then Beast Pirates win. If you think that Kaido beats Luffy, Beast Pirates win. No, you know what I mean. If Kaido is stronger than Luffy, then Beast Pirates win. If Luffy's stronger than Kaido, then Straw Hats win. Because Kaido's really the nail in the grave here. Every other major top tier in Kaido's crew got owned by those in Luffy's crew. So, enough said really on that subject. Especially with the Grand Fleet to help him out in the place of the other allies he had. I'm sure they'll be able to, even the numbers. He's got conquerors. He's going to be able to do it. Against the Whitebeard's crew is interesting. I think old Whitebeard's crew, prime Whitebeard's crew with Odin is obviously the prime of Whitebeard's crew. Old Whitebeard crew with Ace, nah, that's not gonna get. You got a lot more fodder on his crew, up to like 1,000, 1,300, 16, not maybe around 1,300. But yeah, no, he was that was not good. Like even with Blackbeard and Thatch, the fourth division commander, still in there, it was still not his prime crew. His prime crew was definitely in his prime himself. And yep, he destroys the Straw Hat Pirates, he destroys the Big Mom Pirates, and he definitely would destroy logically the Beast Pirates. He himself takes out the captains without much doubt. Okay, maybe he does with great difficulty, but by the time he's done with them, he has more than enough energy to probably take out every single commander, too. That's not sleeping on his other commanders. I mean, Odin obviously is stronger than any other first commander. I stand by that. Marco is a first commander level himself, and even as a youngster, he would probably still be pretty powerful. And he's got some of the other guys too, who are also young and probably not quite in their primes, but still pretty strong. Like Jozu, still had his fruit. Vista. When it comes to first commanders themselves, I think it's pretty easy to rank it. It's Ben Beckman, then it's Zoro, then it's King, then it's Marco, and then it's Katakuri. And of course, Mihawk's. Okay, fine. If you want to consider Mihawk one, then he's above. What is it? He's above everyone else, and then Whitebeard would be above him. Which is, yeah, the what is it? First commander slash vice captain. Because obviously Whitebeard had to be the vice captain of Rocks. You know what I mean? Which might not even be the case. I mean, Rocks probably did have. I don't see why he wouldn't have had one. And if so, then it definitely would have been either Whitebeard or maybe Shiki, to be honest. I only say Shiki because not only is he not weak himself, he's also just seems like a better commander, at least. Or maybe it depends. He seems like more someone Rocks would want on his side, or at least kind of relates more to Rocks. But he's obviously, one second here. That's awesome. Yeah, he's obviously not on the same level of page as Ideals. Though he's definitely a better battle commander, I would assume. Or Shiki's not a bad one, but I feel like Whitebeard is better at commanding people. But yeah, why do I place this? Okay, Ben is the strongest if we don't include Mihawk and Whitebeard, who again are above the rest. I think that's self explanatory. Even if you believe Ben is relative to Shanks, which is a debatable topic. If he is, then, obviously he's better than Zoro, but even then, I think he is. I think with what we've been shown, enough of a threat that he would be stronger than every single vice captain so far. We haven't seen a level of his be matched, and that he is somewhat relative to Shanks. At the very least, top tiers like the Admirals. The Kizaru versus Ben debate can go on for a while. I think Kizaru probably beats him, but it's not an easy fight. Zoro above King for obvious reasons. King above Marco because guess what? He's been pretty much stated to be above Marco. Marco holding off King and Queen with some great difficulty. Might have seemed like a pretty good feat, but no, King is still stronger than Marco. And then, fodder Katakuri, fraud hair Katakuri. I should say fraud hair Shanks, but little boy Katakuri, flower boy Katakuri, he is the worst of them all. Oh yeah, and then you got Shiryu. I'm not gonna bother skilling him. He's definitely gonna be really powerful. A first commander level. Shanks. Yeah, I don't know why everyone's saying Shanks one-shotting Kid was special, huh? That's another one of the One Piece syndrome. One Piece fanboy syndrome, whatever they see one hype feat because they haven't had feats for like 20 years now. I think it's pretty obvious he's far above Kid. I mean, Luffy's far above Kid. Every Yonko's far above Kid. Even Big Mom. I don't see. And then you could even argue, oh, Kid was off guard. He wasn't expecting it. He's not as like far away from Shanks as it looked. I think the brother that gets downplayed is Odin. Odin's stronger than Shanks for real. I mean, he tanked. You couldn't argue a suppressed divine departure from Roger with minimal difficulty. He seemed pretty prepared to fight him, but maybe he just got took off guard from the attack. He clashed decently with Whitebeard and kind of like had him using some effort there. And this is pre his journey with Whitebeard too, by the way. Like he was doing this well against Whitebeard, which anything is well enough against Whitebeard. And he was doing this before he got many times stronger via traveling with him and his crew and Roger. So that's already an impressive feat. Roger, I mean, Whitebeard did one punch him with just his bare fists, no implication of hockey or especially his devil fruit being used, unlike the anime. Um, but he also didn't really get that injured from that. He was stronger than a weaker Kaido, though it depends by how much you want to assume he was. There was one guidebook, I think, that claimed he had the strongest swordsmanship of his generation, which has got to be cap. You can argue that puts him above Primary Lee, but that would also put him above Roger, who is a swordsman. Whitebeard does not, because he doesn't use a sword, he uses a spear, or whatever that battle staff is. Roger obviously uses a sword as his main weapon, too. Like, that's literally what a swordsman is in One Piece. If your main weapon is a sword, you don't really use anything else. What are you? You know what I mean? Yeah, I guess that's all for now. There's not too much else within the One Piece community to complain about. I mean, there is, but I just don't have the time for it. Personally, I feel like Enel, if he comes back, just needs some really great hockey. He might have Conquerors, which is would be a cool surprise, but if he unlocks some really cool observation and armament powers, I don't think he needs it. At least to be a threat for whenever he comes back. And yeah, gay sex fanfic spoilers are not cool, by the way. Yeah, until then, I'll see ya.